We're going to deal with Platonic forms again, but we just want to give an example where there's a breakdown. And if we look at Taoism, the Tao, and how it relates to Platonic forms, we'll see there's a real sharp dichotomy here. So let's dig into this and see what's going on. So we'll start here with the Tao and the Platonic forms. Both represent a reality beyond the physical world, but they're fundamentally different in their structure and function. So comparing them reveals a real classic contrast between Western rationalism and Eastern naturalism. So Platonic forms in the Tao, if we just look at this, Platonic forms, when it comes to nature, they're very discrete and static. They're ideal archetypes. We have the form of a chair that never changes. Whereas in the Tao, there's everything is process and flow, an ever-changing and ineffable way that governs the flow of the universe. In the relationship to matter, Platonic forms, it's very dualistic. We have the physical world, which is an imperfect copy or shadow of the perfect realm of forms. For the Tao, it's non-dualistic. The Tao is immanent. It is in all things and cannot be separated from the material world. We look at accessibility. The Platonic forms are really intellectual. They're discovered through reason, through dialectic, and the mind's eye. Whereas the Tao, they're very intuitive. They're realized through letting go of the intellect, through Wu Wei, and aligning with nature. And so the definition of Platonic forms, Socrates searched for precise verbal definitions of these truths, but for the Tao, they're just indefinable. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. So if we go look at this in some more detail here, the closest Platonic match is the form of the good. Some scholars suggest if there's a parallel, the Tao is most similar to Plato's form of the good, the form of forms. Like the Tao, the form of the good is the ultimate source of existence and harmony, standing above all other discrete concepts. But there's some core differences here. There's the ideal versus the real. Plato's philosophy focuses on the ideal, the fixed, pure, and ageless concepts. Taoism focuses on the real, the embracing the messy, changing, and spontaneous nature of life. There's rationalism and spontaneity. Platonic thought uses logic to categorize the world into fixed rules. Taoism views such categorization as ossification, preferring spontaneity over rigid structures. There's transcendence. While Platonic forms are transcendent, existing outside our world, the Tao is often described as naturalistic, rooted in the rhythmic processes of the visible world. So there's westernized interpretations of the Tao. To understand the Tao versus Platonic forms and details, we can look at specific passages from the foundational texts, how modern scholars like Hans Georg Müller dismantle the common westernized interpretations of them. Let's look first at the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu. The very first line is used to contrast with Platonic idealism. Here's the first line, passing through the ineffable, chapter 1. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The passage analysis, while Plato sought to name and define the form of justice or the good to reach truth, the Tao Te Ching suggests that naming a thing immediately limits it. In Taoism, the eternal is not a fixed static idea like a Platonic form, but a process that is constantly changing yet always present. Let's look at chapter 42, the origin of all things. The Tao gave birth to the one gave birth to the two gave birth to the three, the three gave birth to the 10,000. So this describes a decline through differentiation, unlike the Platonic model, where the physical world is a corrupt copy of the perfect original. The Taoist model sees the physical world as a natural unfolding of the original whole. If we look some more at Taoism in detail using Mueller, we see that it's specifically designed to strip away Western metaphysical ballast like Platonic or Christian frameworks. It's been imposed over the last century. So there's process order versus static order. Mueller argues Western thought seeks a static order, a set of laws or forms that govern things from the outside. In contrast, the Tao is a process order, orderly function of nature itself, like the sequence of seasons, the zero or the empty center. Muller uses the image of a circle with an empty center to describe the Tao. While a Platonic form is a fullness or perfect presence, the Tao is often described as a void or emptiness, a Wu, that allows all things to exist. And then we have the fishnet allegory. Muller highlights how language in Taoism is like a fishnet. Once you catch the fish, which is the meaning, then you should forget the net, which are the words. So this contrasts with Platonic focus on dialectic, where the words and definitions are essential tools to reach the form. We look at the Ziran, the self-so versus the ideal. In the textual detail, the term Ziran, self-so, or spontaneity, appears in chapter 25 of the Tao Te Ching. Man emulates earth. Earth emulates heaven. Heaven emulates the Tao emulates spontaneity. By comparison, a Platonic form is an eternal authority, a standard that things should live up to. Zirhan, however, is an internal authenticity, it's quality of a thing being fully, effortlessly itself, without an external model to follow. So we have the paradox of Wu Wei. In both the Tao Te Ching and the Zhangji, Wu Wei, literally non-doing or non-action, is the ultimate paradox. What is non-doing or non-action? These are completely opposite of one another. It doesn't mean being lazy or passive. It means effortless action, acting so perfectly in sync with the flow of the Tao. It's as if nothing happened at all. So we have the paradox of accomplishment. In the Tao Te Ching, chapter 37, the Tao never acts, yet nothing is left undone.
Is that
The concept, this directly opposes the Platonic view where the good or justice is a goal to be actively pursued through rigorous logic and social engineering. We have the Taoist view. If you have to try to be just, you aren't truly just. True virtue is spontaneous. Then we have the metaphor. Think of a river. It doesn't try to flow or plan to carve a canyon. It simply follows its nature. Through that non-action, it reshapes the earth. We have the paradox of knowledge and forgetting. In Taoism Explained, Mueller highlights a process called decreasing day by day. Plato's learning is remembering. Plato argued that we must recollect the perfect forms we knew before birth, and we add knowledge to reach the truth. But the Wu Wei, we deal with unlearning. The Tao Te Ching says, in the pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired. In the pursuit of the Tao, every day something is dropped. And so the action here, the Wu Wei, is the act of dropping your biases, your fixed forms, your intellectual labels until you reach a state of primordial simplicity, the uncarved block, and only then can you act without friction. The paradox of the skillful non-actor. In the Zhangji, it provides the most vivid examples of Wu Wei through knack stories. Most famous is a cook, Ding, cutting up an ox. The story here, Cook Ding's knife, never goes blunt because he doesn't hack at the bone, which is forced action. Instead, he finds the spaces between the joints, the Tao, and slides through them. So the paradox here is he is acting intensely, but his mind is in a state of non-action. He isn't thinking about the form of an ox or a manual for butchery. He's moved beyond that to the form, into the spirit. And the result is when he finishes, he stands still, completely satisfied, looking around. This is the stillness and motion that defines Wu Wei. So the idea here for Plato versus Wu Wei, the effort in Plato is very rigorous and mental and physically striving. For Wu Wei, it's letting go of striving. For Plato, the method is creating a plan or a model for the form. But for Wu Wei, it's responding to the moment. And success here is reaching a destination for Plato. But for Wu Wei, it's just remaining in the flow. You can see how different these are. So let's look at the king. The Plato and the Tao had different ideas of king. In Taoist political theory, the sage king is a paradox. He's the supreme authority, but he's invisible. While Plato had a philosopher king who rules through a rigorous top-down imposition of ideal forms, justice, truth, and order. The Taoist ruler governs by withdrawing, and allows the people to return to their natural state. So this is the paradox of non-interference. In the Tao Te Ching, it says, ruling a large country is like frying a small fish. So the meaning here is if you poke a small fish too much while frying it, it falls apart. If the ruler imposes too many laws, taxes, and fixed forms of behavior, society crumbles. But so the Wu Wei action, the ruler's action, is to actually remove the obstacles by not interfering. The ruler allows the Tao of the people to reassert itself. There's a key political paradox that appears here in chapter 17, which ranks different types of rulers in the Tao Te Ching. The best are the people only know he exists. The good, the people love and praise him. The bad, the people fear him. The worst, the people despise him. The paradox, when the sage king's work is done, the people say, we did it ourselves. In contrast with Plato in the Plato's Republic, the ruler is a visible architect of the soul. In Taoism, the ruler is a mirror or a void that reflects the people back to their own innate nature. So we have the uncarved block in the Wu Wei versus a sculptured citizen. Plato viewed the state as a craft, where the ruler sculpts citizens to fit the form of the ideal state. Taoism argues that sculpting is the source of all the conflict. The political decluttering here is that the sage king practices Wu Wei by diminishing desire, not flaunting wealth, so that people don't become envious, emptying the minds. So he's discouraging cleverness and sophisticated propaganda that leads to manipulation. And it's a simplifying law. The more laws and edicts are imposed, the more thieves and bandits there will be. So let's look at the king now for Plato versus the Tao. Again, the source of authority for Plato's king is the knowledge of the forms. For the Taoist sage king, it's alignment with the Tao. The governance of style, Plato's king is very active, involved with education and law. The Taoist sage king is very passive, using Wu Wei and examples. The goal for the citizens and Plato is to become just, but this is a fixed thing. For the Taoist sage king, it's to become natural or spontaneous. And the role of knowledge for Plato's philosopher king, it's essential for the elite, but for the sage king of the Tao, it's often seen as a source of cunning, very different. So the historical context here, you have to keep this in mind of when Lao Tzu lived, was during the early Han Dynasty, when these political paradoxes are actually put into practice. And this period was known as a time of rest and recovery, where the government intentionally did very little, lowering taxes and reduced punishment to let the economy and society heal after years of. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Have a good